Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is at long last playing in theaters, bringing with it a ton of fun surprises, wacky twists, and Sam Raimi horror. So today we're going to talk about all the spoilers. Before we start dissecting every Easter egg, reference, and spoiler in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, in case the title of the video or the intro didn't make it clear enough, this will be a spoiler review, so make sure you watch the film first, or make sure you watch my spoiler-free review of it first. You can find it right up here. And if you like these reviews, if you like MCU, movies, and TV, this is the place to be. Consider clicking that subscribe button, and you won't miss any future conversation on your favorite movies and TV. I had so much fun with this film, and one of the things that allowed me to have so much fun from beginning to end, having now seen it twice, is that this is a Sam Raimi movie first. Not a Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, this is Sam Raimi in his Evil Dead self. Raimi brings to the table his usual bag of horror and visual tricks and empties that bag throughout the 2 hours with these weird transitions, overlapping layers between shots, the macabre sense of humor, the creepy monsters, use of dead bodies, and even some gruesome kills. The film starts just with this action scene straight out of one of his movies, which then leads to the fight in New York City against Gargantos, in which he gets his eye ripped out. That's straight out of a Sam Raimi horror picture, but my favorite, early on at least, the one that showed me, okay, we're in for a Sam Raimi movie, is when Doctor Strange goes to meet Wanda, asking her for help with the medic at Chavez, and it turns out the orchard, the farm where Wanda was living, it was all fake, and we reveal it was all a hex, and it's this burnt out orchard that has become the realm of the Scarlet Witch, as she uses the Darkhold, as she is the one that is after America Chavez. Sam Raimi is just allowed to have fun with this premise and deliver his own unique taste and style through it all. It just showcases that Raimi was truly allowed to give us a Sam Raimi movie and play with the toys within the MCU. One of my favorite scenes when Scarlet Witch is attacking Camartage and she gets trapped in this mirror trap by Doctor Strange, and she starts using the reflections. And it's like a haunted house movie with all these weird Dutch angles, crash zooms into Doctor Strange, the reactions and all. She comes out of this tambourine thing and just starts contorting in a creepy way that is so great to see. And it's just Sam Raimi delivering his Sam Raimi-ness. Another one of my favorite things is when it feels like Sam Raimi and Danny Elfman were on acid together, and they just clearly made up that music note sequence from the third act in their minds, and it's so great. It's a sequence I won't soon forget because it's just so bonkers. No one else could have thought of this scene of two Doctor Strangers fighting against one another using music and sound, and Danny Elfman just going wild in his score. And he does that throughout the film. There's these odd guitar riffs throughout that you can tell he was just having a ball composing the score for this. You can tell Sam Raimi was having a ball making this monster movie within the MCU with magic and hexes and multiverse. The wackiness of this premise feels like a great fit for Sam Raimi. It feels like he's the right guy to deliver this horror movie that yet has this sense of humor about it, that pokes fun at everything that comes with a superhero movie, with a multiverse movie, with a fantasy movie in general. And he is allowed as well to create a frightening monster with Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff. He truly makes her this frightening monster that is just on a rampage throughout, that knows no limits, that keeps one-upping our hero, which is so entertaining to watch, and he really makes you fear her. Even with all the mystery at the beginning surrounding it, it's just so fun to see it get revealed and see her trickling down this path of darkness, becoming more and more scary as it goes on, even going to that shrine in Mount Wundagore and seeing those monsters that are very similar to Chthon in the comics, and we'll get to Chthon in a little bit. But I just love seeing that Raimi was given this sandbox with all these toys, and he just went wild with it, delivering horror, delivering humor that is unique to his taste and his sensibilities. And the film also introduces early on this notion of what the multiverse is in relation to dreams, where every time we dream, we get a glimpse of our lives into the multiverse. And there's a quick joke with Wong about that, but it's an interesting notion. And I think they can play with that in very interesting ways in the long term, where we see Doctor Strange dreaming with that opening sequence, not realizing that it is a multiversal movie. But it also puts into context everything we've seen up until now in the MCU, where if we go back to rewatch any MCU movie, whenever someone is dreaming, having a nightmare, that's what they're actually seeing. It's their alternate self in another universe. And that is not only an interesting notion, it opens the doors to the thematic through line of the film. And that brings us to Scarlet Witch as a character continuing on this tragic journey that got initiated in WandaVision, where despite the film's portrayal of her as this monster, this superpowered Michael Myers kind of figure, the first time we meet her, it's seeing her with her boys, truly happy, only to wake up to reality. Before we ever know that she's the one after America Chavez, that she's the one coveting that power to be with her boys across the multiverse. That allows Elizabeth Olsen to give this wonderful performance that is equal parts terrifying, but also fragile and sensible, where this is a monster in every way we look at it. The decisions she's making, she's going down this path of darkness, where she has given into temptations, she has seen the opportunity of being happy, and she aims to accomplish it at all costs. But she is a mother. That's her defense throughout this film, and the reasoning behind what she's trying to accomplish throughout the film makes sense. And that's what makes her so frightening. Because at the end of the day, this is a mother. Even when Wong asks her why she wants the power and not just to be thrown into this one universe to be with her boys, she wants the power so she can travel the multiverse, so she can cure any disease, so she can take care of them, so they can be safe. That's powerful, that's compelling, and that's frightening, because there's no stronger resolve than that, because it's all love. Even when she's confronted by Strange in front of Camartage before she attacks, and she mentions sacrificing Vision, and it meant nothing. And so we understand her. Throughout the film, we know where she is coming from. And that's what's so scary about her. As they say, hell hath no fury over a woman scorned, in this case, a mother scorned. Wanda, in her despair, in her vulnerability, has given in to this dark force that corrupts and consumes her, as the film sets up, as the film pays off and demonstrates, not only with her, but with Stephen Strange meeting his darkest counterpart in the third act when we get to Stephen Strange. It's a beautiful story of us giving in when we're at our weakest. And it's Wanda's tragedies that have built her to this point. And the film does incredibly well with her, having her become this monster, but with that righteous resolve of wanting happiness and seeking it at all costs. And she is absolutely horrifying in this film. She is a creepy monster and one of the MCU's most compelling antagonists. I would put her up there with the Thanoses and the Lokis and the Killmongers That's how effective she is in this film. And it's not just that Olsen is incredible at making you scared of her, like we talked about in that mirror scene. She keeps one-upping Strange. Eventually, we have a chase scene through tunnels into the Gap Junction, the world between worlds, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But all of that is delivered in a very sympathetic way, where a lot of times when she's talking, you can hear her voice quiver. You can sense the vulnerability in her. So it's this constant great balance between sympathy and terror that you feel for her, even when she's got Wong trapped and she's dreamwalking into her other self, which is in itself very well set up as this consecration of natural law. Very well delivered by an alternate Mordo. But we see an apprentice from Kamar-Taj destroying the Darkhold. And it's not even Wanda that destroys her. It's the power of the Darkhold. And so it puts her in an even more desperate situation, furthering her down this path of temptation. No qualms, no regrets, no hesitation. Throughout all of that, you understand her. When she attacks Kamar-Taj, where she explores the mental weakness of the defenders of Kamar-Taj, and it's this great moment where she just shows up behind this one student and says, "Run." And it's fantastic. Even when Doctor Strange, who we know how powerful he is, tries to confront her, tries to battle with her, she just takes care of that. No worries. Wong, the same thing. And there's this constant discussion about reason. Is she being reasonable? The film keeps putting her in these positions where she has to trickle further down that path. She has to attempt more drastic, desperate measures. And she does. And we see this despair in her. There's this really cool scene when she first dreamwalks to A38 Wanda, and it's kind of like this ghost in the house that other Wanda can't see, eventually possessing her, where Wanda looks directly at the camera, which is something very Sam Raimi, but also a callback to WandaVision. And as she goes down this path, it's only when confronted by herself and by her boys that she realizes what she has become, where she has been equal parts mother, equal parts monster, but then she has to make a choice. There's a real beauty in the fact that only with her own assurity that her boys will be safe, that they will be loved, can she let go. It's only at that end sequence where America Chavez punches a hole to A38, that was kind of loud, I apologize, where she sees her boys right there within her grasp, taking other Wanda out of the way, but they're scared of her. And it's the first time, the one question throughout the film she didn't have an answer for, of what will happen to the other Wanda. And she sees what will happen, and she sees what that causes to her boys. Only then, she's finally able to let go. It's very powerful. It's a rousing moment of Wanda letting the Scarlet Witch know that they'll be okay. They'll be loved. Leading her to make the ultimate sacrifice of not only destroying the shrine that was meant for her, but also destroying the Darkhold across all of the multiverses, so temptation is gone. That's the thematic throughline that really hits for me throughout this film. The thematic throughline of temptation, where Wanda has seen a chance of happiness, she's been tempted by it, she's gone down that path, and then we have Stephen Strange, who is in a very different place within his road of being tempted by happiness, where it's a question that he gets asked at the beginning, at the wedding, by his ex-girlfriend. And this entire film, in a lot of ways, for Stephen Strange, is about overcoming that relationship, being alright with it being over, with him having no chance, despite the constant chances at giving into that temptation throughout the film, at chasing that true happiness. And it's really powerful, but even beyond those parallels, before we get to it, it's just really fun as someone who is such a big fan of the original Doctor Strange, of Benedict Cumberbatch in this role, like myself, after 6 years, to see a Doctor Strange-led movie, where now we're done with the origin story, he is master of his own abilities, going through this personal journey that compels us throughout the film, but now seeing him work together with Wong, fighting Gargantos. Just master of his own abilities, really confident in pulling out the cloak, flying around, using the spells and all that, knowing what to do, understanding the multiverse and all that. And even facing up to Wanda, using these spells that we've never seen. I just had a rush of adrenaline whenever we saw Stephen Strange or Wong or Wanda using spells. Because this action with magic is just creative, and it's unlike anything else in the MCU. There's a couple of hand-to-hand combat sequences in this film, and they're fun. I actually was really surprised how they were shot, but it's the magic that makes this unique. The characters flying around, opening portals, using spells, how that lends to the horror sensibilities of it all. I was in heaven, because that's exactly what I always wanted when reading the comics. And to me, the fact that we now have two big blockbuster Hollywood movies that have that in live action, I had a blast with it. From the one-on-one confrontations, the Defender Strange flying with the souls of the damned. We also get to see Wanda herself destroying Kamar-Taj and using her abilities, not only her actual powers, but going into the mind of other people. And it's just so much fun. I felt like a 5-year-old kid reading those comics now come to life. And throughout the film, he gets the chance to be confronted by whether he's truly happy or not, and whether he has made the right decisions or not. Even when he talks to Wanda and they talk about him giving the Time Stone to Thanos, he justifies it by saying they were at war. But what's interesting is, as much as Stephen Strange defends that he did stuff for the right things, much like Wanda is doing in this film, as he travels the multiverse, he gets confronted by the fact that whenever Stephen Strange was trusted to do the right thing, he made the wrong choice. And with that, throughout the film, we're able to explore his ego, his arrogance, which is so much of what makes this character fun, showing true vulnerability about him. With that confrontation that is embodied in Christine Palmer, which we will get to. And every time we see a new Strange, makes the wrong decision. Defender Strange at the beginning, we see a little bit of his arrogance. He doesn't get a lot of time to shine, but we see how he's willing to do anything to accomplish his goal, in this case of protecting the multiverse, even betraying America Chavez, trying to take her power away. One of the more interesting ones is Supreme Strange. We find out as this savior of the Earth, Earth's mightiest hero, only to find out that that was a lie as well from the Illuminati, which we'll get to. He himself was corrupted, consumed by the Darkhold after defeating Thanos, causing incursions, ripping open the tear of reality that separates universe from universe, leading his own friends to kill him so they could stop him, which is exactly what he's trying to do with Wanda. And Sinister Strange at the end, who is the worst version of Stephen Strange, who has fallen down that dark path that Wanda has fallen down in this film, where he saw an opportunity at happiness with Christine Palmer across the multiverse, and with the Darkhold, didn't let anything stop him, killing any Stephen Strange in his path. Which leads again to that lethal symphony sequence, which is awesome, and another gruesome death, as our Stephen Strange just throws him out and he is impaled by his gates. With this, the film leads our Stephen Strange himself to this desperate moment where he comes to this compelling moral compromise where he himself has to dreamwalk. He has to do what Wanda did throughout the film, and he dreamwalks to his corpse. Being consumed by the souls of the damned, he is attacked. Both of his bodies, the dead one and his one in Sinister's universe. And it's only with the help of Christine, who uses the brazier of Bongoliath in a really cool callback to the original film, to help him, to motivate him as the master of the mystic arts, to control these rogue spirits and eventually confront Wanda. And that's a really great thematic through line throughout the film that connects Steven and Wanda, where he doesn't want to make these decisions. He doesn't want to go down this dark path. He doesn't want to use the Darkhold, but he's left with no choice, becoming somewhat of a hypocrite. And that's what's interesting about this film, is that it puts heroes, villains, all in these morally gray areas where in every universe he wasn't able to figure out what he and Christine were. When he had the opportunity to be with Christine Palmer as Supreme Strange, he still gave in to darkness. And in that pursuit, extreme pursuit of happiness, Sinister Strange went across the multiverse, destroyed his universe in the process, only to be with her, killing his other selves, which is what Wanda is trying to do. It's just really powerful to see the mirror images of the paths both these characters are going down, why they're going down those paths, and the choices they see themselves making throughout the film. I just find Doctor Strange's arc very compelling, where he doesn't want to do this, where he does not seek ultimate happiness at any cost. He is restrained, he is controlled, he wants to respect the natural law of the multiverse and save everyone. But he is drawn to these drastic measures to stop the ultimate being of destruction in the Scarlet Witch. And it works very well in tandem with his arc in the first film, where he goes from being this ultimate selfish guy to the ultimately selfless man. And now he's yet once more tempted by selfishness when he meets Christine, where he basically spends the bulk of the second and third act with Christine. He has a happiness right within his grasp. And it's the fear of being unhappy that has held him back. There's this beautiful moment with the two of them where she encourages him to face their fears. It's just nice to finally see Rachel McAdams get something to do, get to bounce off Stephen Strange with one another, both knowing what they lost and both not giving in. All this catching America Chavez in the middle, who is a character that is crucial to the story of the film. Xochitl Gomez has great chemistry with Benedict Cumberbatch as well. It's a character whose insecurities and vulnerability we understand. There's that really cool scene with her seeing the memory of when her powers first came in. Her mother's got thrown somewhere into the multiverse. She couldn't find them. But unfortunately, that's it. She works much better on a story level over a character level. The film gets by just doing the bare minimum with her. It's good enough. Because the film has already these two big characters in Doctor Strange, Wanda Maximoff, America Chavez gets a little bit of the short end of the stick. She works a lot more as a plot device rather than a character itself. While really having this reverse tragedy to Wanda, where Wanda lost her kids and America has lost her parents. And it's still fun to see that chemistry bouncing off of one another with her and Strange as she's on this journey of self-confidence, of growth, where she eventually gets motivated by Stephen Strange through his corpse self that once betrayed her, much like Christine eventually motivates Strange to control the souls of the damned. And while this moment doesn't carry a lot of compelling emotion, and we'll get to why in a bit, it's fun to see America Chavez be motivated by this guy on his own journey, completing his arc from the original film, where he has now become a mentor to someone. He is now entrusting what the Ancient One taught him to someone else. That's really cool growth. But again, it's got the beats, but in between, she's always more of a plot device rather than a character itself. So right now, she's not a very compelling character. She's just good enough. She's alright. But in the grand scheme of the MCU, there's a ton more that needs to be done with her to stand out on her own. But it is because of America Chavez that we get to travel through the multiverse in an incredibly visually spectacular and psychedelic sequence. Very Raimi-esque. In one of them, they're paint. Another one, they're animated. There's one where it looks like the 1940s. There's one where it looks like Muspelheim or Hell. And even one where we see the Living Tribunal. That's the second Living Tribunal cameo in a Doctor Strange movie. Eventually they land in A38, which is where we meet the Illuminati. And I'd be lying to you if this wasn't a euphoric moment. This was incredible. It put a huge smile on my face, meeting an alternate Carl Mordo, Captain Carter, played by Haley Atwell, Maria Rambeau, Captain Marvel, Blackagar Boltagon, played by Anson Mount, a comic-accurate one that doesn't speak or anything. Never thought they'd do that. And you eventually see why they did it, and we'll get to that. Professor Charles Xavier, straight out of the animated series. With the levitating yellow wheelchair, the green suit, the theme even plays as he comes in, and John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic. What a beautiful moment. And they hold this tribunal for Stephen Strange as they believe he is the biggest threat of the universe, sharing a lot of the arrogance of Stephen Strange, but also the arrogance and hubris of their comic book counterparts. This is the Illuminati, who formed to make these difficult decisions and judge others, all high and mighty. They're not even scared about Wanda. But it is not only a great moment that puts a smile on your face, where you feel this sheer euphoria in watching these characters come to life, but it leads to probably the biggest massacre of the film. And it works because we see a quick moment of backstory for these characters, where apparently just the 6 of them defeated Thanos in what looks like to be this universe's version of Titan, and eventually they had to destroy their own Stephen Strange, their friend, with Black Bolt screaming, "I'm sorry," which is such a great scene because the sound really booms. I had to cover my ears. You understand how powerful they are. They still have no chance against Wanda, and it gets aggressive. This is where Sam Raimi's horror truly shines, when she confronts the Illuminati and Professor Charles Xavier, ever the mentor, ever the teacher, entrusts Stephen Strange to, if he gets out, to make the right call in stopping Wanda Maximoff reaching the Book of Vishanti. But when the others confront Wanda, Black Bolt about to scream, and Wanda just shifts reality and he doesn't have a mouth anymore, blowing his own mind from within, being the first one out, killing the Inhuman King right there. That was incredibly funny. There's this quick exchange where we understand that Reed Richards already has a son, who is a mutant, by the way, and he gets undone into strings. Captain Carter, Captain Marvel, they put up a great fight, but Captain Carter gets cut in half with her own shield. That's horrifying. And we do get this really cool fight between Captain Marvel and Wanda, with them spinning around in the air, their energy blasts clashing against one another, having them spin around, destroying the British Museum around them. And even Xavier, who goes into Wanda's mind, tries to save A38 Wanda from the rubble, which is very similar to Wanda's backstory we learned in WandaVision when her house was bombed. But the Scarlet Witch just goes inside and, like a demon from hell, snaps his neck in the most aggressive kill of the entire movie, which is just so awesome to see. And this is one of the best sequences in the entire film, not because we get these cameos and these Easter eggs for fans. We get that, but not at the cost of story. It's an entire scene to showcase how powerful Wanda is, understanding these characters' power level, but also how far she's willing to go. It never stops being about her, about our Strange, and about America Chavez, where story, character are prioritized, but we are able to sprinkle in these little treats. The cameos are not the meal. They're the spice. They're there to enhance the experience, but the experience is always about those 3 characters. And the chase scene that follows through the tunnels is just as horrifying and filled with terror as all these deaths. Specifically because we've seen all these deaths, seeing Wanda chase Strange and Christine and America there is just filled with tension, keeping up this kinetic pace where eventually she makes her way to the Gap Junction. She destroys the Book of Vishanti and just throws Strange and Christine into Sinister Strange's universe, which we have talked about. This is one of my issues, where the Book of Vishanti is just destroyed. It's there to set up the drastic move, the moral compromise that R. Strange has to make to use the Darkhold from another universe. But it feels like a red herring, and it feels like in the long run, on the grand scheme of the MCU, we could have used it for something else. And so I feel like it's a necessary step, sure, but we could have found another way to have Strange make this drastic move of dream walking into his corpse, leading to that incredible sequence, controlling the souls of the damned that we talked about. The fight with Wanda is great, but then a lot in this third act is emotionally compelling. It is emotionally resonant. The pep talk with America Chavez, appealing to Wanda's senses, and the fact that we get an undead version of Stephen Strange who doesn't even have half of his mouth, can barely emote, despite the incredible prosthetic makeup there. It just takes a little bit away. I couldn't personally look past the fact that Stephen Strange is not there, present in the climax of this film. He doesn't have a choice. Obviously, there's a reason for it within the story, but to me, that takes away from the emotional potency of it all. Where I wish we could have seen Stephen Strange have a last moment with Wanda, have his climatic moment with America Chavez, bringing their relationship throughout this film to a close of their arc. As it converged, it lacked one key character in the film. And that's one of my issues with the third act, sadly. And it then rushes past everything. Wanda making that ultimate sacrifice. She destroys the Darkhold, destroys the shrine, and we even see a spark of red energy, which may suggest that she is still alive, which I hope she is, but also, when they first get to the shrine, before meeting all the creatures, they do mention Chthon, who originally created the shrine, which is the original Darkhold, and maybe the falling of the shrine may indicate that Chthon is free. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but it is possible, as I see it at least. But that is my issue with the third act, is that it lacks the full emotional potency of it all, and then just quickly sees America Chavez in Camartage, and then Stephen Strange just walking on the street, and the repercussions of using the Darkhold, the cost of it, start weighing in on him as his third eye open. And I believe this third eye opening is the incursion that we feared. And now Stephen Strange is able to see beyond his universe. He is able to travel willingly beyond universes. And that's where we get to the post-credit scene where Charlize Theron comes in as Clea. Now, I did a breakdown of this post-credit scene as well as the other one, and it's right up here for you to watch. But having seen the film 2 times now, I definitely feel like Clea is setting up a trap for him when she opens the portal to the dark dimension. There's just something about how the scene plays out, how she goads Stephen Strange asking if he's afraid, and he's clearly not, now apparently controlling his third eye. And I think we are going to see that corruption of Stephen Strange throughout, as he was forced to break the natural law, the natural order of things. And despite not seeing our Mordo in this film, that only makes things more interesting, because that only reinforces the belief that he came to at the end of the first film, where there are too many sorcerers, where these sorcerers break all the rules and we need to get rid of them. We have Stephen Strange throughout this film proving anyone who doubts him and believes he is evil right, where he has made these wrong decisions forced upon him, but he still went down that path, and ultimately now crossing into the dark dimension, which might even break the truce that he had with Dormammu in the first film. So now how does Mordo factor into that? And I think it's very, very exciting. And that just about ends all the spoilers, all the Easter eggs with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where we have a wacky psychedelic journey through all these alternate realities, seeing how our characters are affected by seeing these alternate realities. So it embraces the imaginative multiversal wackiness along with the creepy horror creativity that Sam Raimi brings to the table, while also grounding it all with a resonant thematic about temptation and narrative of choice and compelling characters. And so this film delivered in spades what I wanted, despite a rushed third act, despite some plot devices not really fully working. I had a blast with it. It was creative, it was imaginative, and it was so Sam Raimi. It was such a fun horror movie with superheroes delivering great treats, but being a great meal as a whole. That's my spoiler review on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Let me know what you thought of the film, all the spoilers down there. If I forgot to mention anything you wanted to chat about, let me know as well, and thank you so much for watching. You are the best. I'll be back very soon discussing the biggest Easter egg in the film, and there's a ton of MCU Doctor Strange coverage right now up on the channel. I hope to see you there, and if you enjoyed this, make sure to click that subscribe button so you don't miss any of those videos coming up very soon. Thank you to my channel members for supporting the channel as well, and until the next one, love each other and love the movies.